After a month of work on the walls and windows, the house is starting to look very different. And this week, with our work on the main wall on the entrance side, there should be another big transformation with the addition of new small, medium and large openings and a fair amount of stonework around them, which is going to require quite a lot of preparation work before and then quite a lot of tidying up afterwards from all the rubble that we make. Oh, and there's been some changes in this area too. And on the first morning when I was opening up, there was some tidying up to do indoors after some heavy wind and rain over the weekend had knocked down some of the window covers. And while I headed upstairs to pick things up, the team arrived. And we all moved inside to start preparing for work on the walls. Although DJ Haggy had to replace his radio's batteries to make sure there was music for the day. The preparation work inside was essentially moving props and scaffolding from the walls we worked on last week to the ones we were working on this week. And outside, I needed to move the fence to enable some scaffolding, which meant a search for the right padlock key. The vaults were being propped to support further props for the roof beams on the first floor above. And with the team working on the scaffolding outside, I started reorganizing upstairs. And removing the old shutters to enable work on enlarging this window. As usual, I wanted to take them out for potential reuse, so I needed to chip out the plaster and mortar around them relatively carefully. After the morning break, with the team continuing their scaffold and propping preparations, I moved downstairs to start the tidy up of rubble piles from last week's work. Once again, trying to separate out the better stones that might be reusable from more general waste. With the rubble pile almost cleared, it was time for a late lunch out in the sun, although with the new windows, there is now plenty of light inside as well. Day 2 started with a relatively clear morning, but with some clouds on the horizon, it had the potential for a good sunrise. But when Haggy and Miguel arrived, the priority for Haggy was for some darkness upstairs so that he could mark out the internal lines for the new windows. And with the lines marked, we returned to work outside, with me helping with the mortar before Sam would arrive later on. Haggy and Miguel continued work on the wall and windows, although Miguel was suffering from some wrist pain that was making this a little more difficult for him. And while they worked on the openings, I moved on to the next rubble piles, either smoothing them over or clearing them away.
I en concret han comprovat que si fa uns anys l'estiu era una època tranquil·la pel que fa al volum assistit.
With the rubble piles cleared, my next tidying was in the shed area. First, clearing up the old plastic membrane. Then tidying up the brick rubble to make the next bit of work a bit easier.
Al meu barri, celebrant el centenari del cine, el que més he anat a la meva vida. A la vida és verdi.
Day 3 started with another fine sunrise, and the full team were back for another day of work on the walls and openings. Starting for them with some more props as they widen the opening of the bigger upper window. I was back to work around the shed, this time reorganising and clearing stones up against the remaining back wall. And later in the morning, I was back to dismantle the last remaining wall of the old shed. And when Sam was free from supporting the others, he helped me move some of the cornerstones I had dug out or taken out of the walls. Uno puede, sí. Sam, superhuman strength.
Ese metro.
The smaller window that Haggy was now working on will involve a slightly different sequence to normal, as the plan is to have a window of a similar size and position, but lower down. And before making the new opening, we will first put in the beams and then fill in the old opening above.
No. Tú no dices nada. Si quieres marihuana, yo lo compro y ya está. Venga para arriba. Póngalo adentro, lo pondremos la viga.
Bien. Day 4 started with a warm, clear morning, although rain was now forecast for the end of the week. And the work started with some more laser level checks, this time on the ground floor. Tony the Technico was back on site to review the work and discuss a couple of specific items. Mucho más fácil para hacer dos. Miguel was still working despite the pain in his wrist, but we agreed that he would need to stop if it got worse in the morning. Miguel's wrist was still causing problems, and after this clip he stopped and headed out to get it looked at, but he is hoping to be back next week. While Haggy worked on filling in more of the old brick sections, I headed out for some supplies and a new pair of work shoes. And when I was back, Haggy was making good progress with the stonework. And Sam and I headed upstairs for the next bit of tidying up work. Finishing with some sorting of the stones from the rubble. With the mixer making some louder noises than usual, Sam patiently greased all of the cogs, and Haggy tidied up his mortar work from the day. While I started some preparations for rain the next day and some further work on the old drain pipes next week.
Pero si trabaja más y te duele más.
Espero que sí, pero no estoy. And after Haggy and Sam finished for the day, I headed back for some final tidying up. The last day of the week started with a dramatic sky that suggested to me that the forecast cloud and rain were probably on their way. And although we enjoyed a brief glimpse of the sun, the cloud cover made the final laser work of the week a little bit easier. And while the guys started on the next opening, I headed to the drain pipe at the back of the house, where I wanted to test a temporary setup and check the connection between the old drains and the base of the wall. For the next opening, Haggy was now taking away the top part of the old buttress so that the new exterior beam could be put in. And I worked on setting up the temporary drain pipe and a gutter for the ground to better move the water away from the wall. And with the temporary setup looking like it would be okay, I started work on taking out the current old drain and checking the base of the even older non-functioning ceramic drain. By mid-morning there had been some light rain, but the incoming clouds were looking darker. The plan for this section is for there to be no drain pipes in the centre of the wall and to clear out and fill in the old ceramic parts. But first I wanted to see if it had been causing some of the dampness on the other side of the wall during heavy rain. And from my quick check, it didn't look to be the obvious culprit. But I will investigate this further when I remove the mortar I was now putting in as another temporary measure. While Haggy continued the stonework above the new beam, Sam and I returned to moving the last cornerstones to get them under cover before possible use next week. With the rain getting heavier, I checked out the temporary drain solutions, which seemed to be working okay. And Haggy and Sam moved inside for some final work for the week, this time removing an earlier beam we had used for the floor work in preparations for putting in a bigger beam next week. And that is the end of work for this week, during which we've had mostly excellent weather until the rain caught up with us today. And apart from a lot of tidying up inside, a lot of rubble shifting outside, nearly all of the work has been in this area, where we have steadily made changes to this wall, or more accurately, where Haggy has mostly been doing the changing after Miguel had his problem with his wrist and needed to take a break. So there is now a big wider window in the middle, a new window up in that top corner, and we are midway through making the changes to that lower window down there. And after filling in all of the old brick sections, today we've at last got started on the biggest and main opening, and for the first time taken down some of the old buttress there. And next week, hopefully with some good weather and a full team, we should complete the work on that wall and be able to move on to a couple of other walls and a couple of other windows. So please do tune in next week to see how we get on.